Good afternoon. I pray that your weekend was filled with spaces and places of joy, of peace, of happiness. If you're living in a part of the country where the temperatures was just disrespectfully hot, I pray that you found ways to stay cool, to be able to enjoy drinking something that was nice and refreshing and cold. Maybe you made some homemade ice cream or some sherbet. I just pray that whatever it is that brings you joy in the good old summertime, that you were able to do it, but practice safely. We still live in these COVID-19 streets, so I pray that even as we search for joy, even as we experience peace, that we are doing it safely. We're continuing our conversation about toxic relationships, and right now we're focused on how unhealed childhood trauma can manifest, and we will be linking it to toxic relationships. And today we're talking about external validation needed. External validation needed. If you grew up in a dysfunctional household, you may have grown up in a place where how you felt about yourself was determined by what others said. You may have been told you were dumb. You may have been told you were stupid. You may have been told you were ugly. You may have been told that you were too dark. You may have been told that you were too light. You may have been told that your nose was too big. You may have been told you're just like your mama. You're just like your daddy in negative terms. You may have been told you were too fat. You may have been told you were too skinny. You were too slow. You weren't athletic. In dysfunctional families, the challenge is a lot of things are said or done, but it tends not to be a lot of things that are affirming. It tends not to be a lot of things that help people to grow in their self-confidence. And the reason for that is because if you grew up in a dysfunctional household, your parents or your caregivers were struggling themselves with how to parent in a healthy way. And I tend to say that people parent the way they were parented. And when people know better, they do better. And so this external need for validation, and let me just pause there for a minute, because all of us every now and then want to be validated. We want to be told we're doing a good job. We want to be acknowledged that, we're good people. Being validated is a part of balance. It's a part of affirming who we are and who we're created to be. But if you grew up in a dysfunctional household and you really didn't get those positive messages, you struggle with having a clear sense of who you are. You're struggling because all those negative things that were said to you and about you tend to take up more space in your brain, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for the positives, for the things that are affirming. I give the example, and we all could probably relate to this. You get dressed, you put on the perfume or cologne you like, you have an outfit that fits you well. If you're a woman and you wear makeup, your face is beat, you're looking good. Male, your beard is groomed, you feel good, you like your shoes, you walk out the house feeling good. You think you feel good about, your appearance. And you run to somebody who says, where you get them shoes at? I don't know about them. And all of a sudden, all those good feelings are gone because your whole sense of worth, your whole sense of how you feel good has just been shattered based on the opinion of one person. But how many of you know opinions are like, I'll just say it, like buttholes. Everybody has one. And they all don't have to look alike. They don't have to smell alike. We don't have to agree. Diversity and difference is the spice of life. I always say if we all thought the same, felt the same, looked the same, this world would be very boring. You are uniquely and wonderfully made. Everybody doesn't have the same gifts and talents. And living in a balanced way is recognizing and affirming for yourself. When you know for yourself that you are a good person, when you know for yourself that you have a skill set, when you know for yourself that you are okay just as you are, you don't need external validation. Yes, it is nice to get it, but you are not defining yourself by what others think. You are not allowing that to define you. In the movie Happy Feet, about the penguin who was not like the rest of the penguins. He did not have a song. All the other penguins had a heart song, and even his daddy struggled with having a child that was different. And because Happy Feet, what he did have is what made his heart sing was he could dance. He could dance, but that was not, it went against the communal norm, and eventually he was finally celebrated for who he was and the gifts that he brought. And I think one of the things I really, really loved about that little cartoon movie is that even as others tried to invalidate him, even as he tried to fit in, he still never let go of that thing that was burning inside of him that made him uniquely him. He never let go of, he never put aside the gift that he had, the thing that made him glow. And that's my message for you today. Seeking external validation and being dependent on it is like trying to roll a snowball up a hill. You will probably never get that. Because not everyone's going to agree with you. Not everyone's going to like what you have on. Not everyone's going to praise you. You may be the most beautiful person to one person, and to someone else from a different culture or who has a different thing that they like, you may be just to them. And so it's not really that important what others think. It's what you think about yourself. And if you have sustained a childhood trauma, that is easier said than done. But guess what? We're going to focus, as we normally do, we're going to focus on learning how to love yourself, to be kind to yourself, to embrace yourself with all your quirks, with all your flaws, with all your weirdness, with all that you bring to the table. Learning to just embrace all that and accept it. It can begin with baby steps. It can begin with, let me share a personal story. I grew up in a relatively conservative religious household. And I also grew up during a time period where back when people were still called Negroes, and there were certain beliefs that if women wore certain colors, that means that they're fast, particularly like red or really bold colors. So I grew up with the ideal of, you wear muted things and, you try to fit in. But deep down inside, and so let me just do it this way. When people would say, what's your favorite color? I would always say green, because I really do like green. But deep down inside, green was not my favorite color. But I would never say that because I wanted to fit in. Deep down inside, my favorite color was red. And it took me years to finally embrace that I am a red dress wearing woman. To embrace that it is okay for me to wear red. It is okay for me to love that color. And it does not necessarily speak to who I am or any of my behaviors. It's simply because I like that color. And once I was able to embrace that, I slowly began to incorporate things of red into my wardrobe. And some of you may know I used to pastor a church for some time. And one of the senior members of the church, he would always say to me, you should wear red more often. And I was like, why? He said, for one, he said, it's a power color. And he said, and number two, because it highlights your face, Now, if I would have been able to have heard that message growing up, I may have stepped into my fullness as a red dress wearing woman much earlier. But I had finally come to a place of growth and self-acceptance. So when he said it, instead of me thinking, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's trying to hit on me, or what does he know, I was able to receive that validation, but also recognizing I didn't need it because I had already grown to that place. And that's what I want for you, to be able to validate yourself, not seek it and be dependent on others to validate you, because sometimes you have to march to your own drum. Sometimes you got to walk this path in a way that only you are clear about. You may have to do this thing or walk through your purpose because it's been given to you and not someone else. And whether or not someone else validates whether it's worthy, or it's a waste of your time doesn't really matter, because it's yours. And we're going to work on, I invite you to work on doing that on purpose. Love you much, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and stay as cool as you can. Bye-bye.